Hey, scrapbook friends, it's Nicole, and I'm here with my contribution to the July 2025 edition of the Savvy Scrapbookers. And that's where my two good friends, Donna Guest, Debbie Martin, and I take a Creative Memories paper pack and either the matching stickers or embellishments and divide it up. And each of us then creates a double page layout using the pieces that we chose. So if you would like to recreate all three of our layouts, you do not have to buy more than one pack of paper and stickers. And this month we chose to use the beach scenes, which is a little bit unique for CM in that it wasn't just a paper pack. It only came as a bundle, it's still available. So you do get the paper and the stickers as a bundle together. So we, of course, use the stickers. They're not embellishments or anything else with that. I was able to use some pictures from my childhood. My dad has been scanning in pictures, and I talk about that a little bit later on in the video. But I had a really fun time putting this together, and I think it's a really versatile layout. You could use with the beach scenes. You could use with any of the scenes packs or with any paper pack or theme that go with the pictures that you are scrapbooking. So stay tuned to see how this fun beach scenes layout came together. So these are the four papers that I chose, and I have to admit to you that I really prefer the less pattern side to the more pattern side on almost all of them. So this one is bubbles, and the back side is dolphins and hammerhead sharks. So, I mean, if I had aquarium, oh, there's a little seahorse in there too and some coral. If I had like aquarium pictures, this would be great, but I don't. I am using beach pictures. I love the suns. And I love the stripe. I always love a good stripe. And I actually like this stripe too, but it is a little bit tricky to use two stripes together. So we're gonna have to be a little bit careful. I also like this pattern. It's kind of, I don't know, Near Eastern Indian. I don't know how we describe that, but it feels kind of 70s retro-y, and I like it a lot. And of course I love the palm tree background. And I don't dislike this one, but it's a lot. So I'd want to use this one sparingly. And in fact, I'm going to use this side with the palm trees. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the two, the bubbles on one side and the palm trees on the other side. And then we're going to cut this one so that this makes the stripes across the bottom. And then the suns will be the big panels. And then we'll have these be the smaller panels with the orange stripe as the little punched on the outside. All right. So let's start with this one, the yellow suns, and I want to make sure that I cut it on the stripe side because I want to cut across the grain of the stripe, and I'm going to cut this at twice at 1 inch. Now, let me get my cutting guide. So here's my cutting guide. I had somebody tell me last time I didn't leave it up long enough for them to take a screenshot. So here you go. We're going to cut these two 1x12s. We're going to cut two 1/2 inch strips off the top, and then this remaining piece will be 5x11. All right. So I've cut my two 1 inch stripes. Now I'm going to turn this 90 degrees and cut it at 1/2 inch. And we're going to be using the other side, so it doesn't really matter what these stripes look like on this side. Okay, now this piece is 11 inches tall, and we're going to cut it at, it should be 10 inches wide, and it is. We're going to cut it at 5 inches. All right, so this is how we're going to use it on our layout. All right, the two 1 inch strips, the two 1/2 inch strips, and then the two 5x11 inch strips. And then the next paper, this one we're going to punch first, and we're going to punch using the Picket Fence border cartridge. The Picket Fence is the cartridge that comes with every border maker system, but I don't see it used a lot. And so because this one, it did have the punches that came with the beach scenes. I can't remember which one came with the beach. I don't think it was the whale tail. I can't remember which one it was. And I do have those, but I don't know anybody that besides crazy CM advisors who bought all 6 of the punches. But hopefully if you have the border maker system, you have the picket fence cartridge. I know I have like 4 of them at this point because I've bought multiple systems, you know. So we're going to punch first down 2 sides, and I want this to be, I want my pattern to be going this way on the page. So I want to do it this way. So I want to punch across basically what's the top and the bottom. And it's a little hard on the eyes on this side. So we're going to turn it over just for punching surfaces, punching purposes, but make sure that you're cutting in the direction that you want. Pay attention to the direction. And we're not going to use this whole piece, but I found that it was easier. Oh, interesting. Easier to punch, just punch the whole 12-inch length, and then we'll trim it to the size we need. And then you could, at this point, if you wanted to, get your trimmer out, trim this at 1 1/4 inches and punch again. But I find it so much easier when I'm punching 2 pieces to just flip my paper around and punch down the other side. All right, so there's our punching. We're done with our picket fence cartridge. Clean this out. All right, and then we're going to cut this at 1 1/4 inches. So you're going to put the point right here at the 1 1/4 inch line. And this, because of the strip that we cut off, this doesn't give you exactly a 9-inch center piece, but it's going to be close enough. So now this piece is probably closer to like 9 1/4. Yeah, it's like 9 and not even 9 1/4. But we're going to cut it at 6 inches, and it doesn't really matter, that little extra tolerance, right? The paper often has a little bit of extra. So we're going to cut it like this into 2 6-inch pieces. So here is the cutting guide again for you. I'll leave it for just a second so you can screenshot. And then the pieces, we're going to have this border and that border, and then these 2 pieces. All right, and then all that's left is the assembly. So if you watch my Theme Park Thursdays, you know it often takes me a lot longer than this to come up with a layout because I have more than 2 papers to cut, and it's a very different technique, but I do really like this, this style of scrapbooking. So we're going to start with our 2 center pieces, which for me are going to be the sun. And although I have this grid mat on my table, I really do like the CM 13 by 13 mat for helping me position things. So I'm going to go ahead and use my permanent adhesive. You can now get a repositionable for the jumbo tape runner, but you can't get the case. You have to buy a case with the permanent and then swap out the repo. But as you can see, I've used almost all of mine, so I'm about to have a case for my repo. So I'm excited about that. All right, and then I'm going to position this. This is 11 inches, and so I want to do it just right about 1/2 inch. And of course, it's, you know, scrapbooking, so I could be off by a smidge. But I'll just center that about 1/2 inch from the top and the bottom. That's going to be the middle. And then for my next piece, instead of using the 13 by 13 mat to position it, I'm just going to position it against itself and match these 2 sides up against each other. And I want to make sure that you see how at the top of this one, like I only have a little smidge of the sun, and at the top here I've got half suns. Here I've got the half suns. I want that to match. I want it to go across the paper. There we go. A little crumb on there. Before we stick this next piece down, we need to weave our little pieces through our border punch. So we're going to take these 2 woven pieces and our 2 little 1/2 inch strips. Now you can actually fit more like a 7/8 of an inch strip on here, but if I did that, that was going to reduce the size that I had to put my pictures on, and I didn't want to do that. So we're not going to use all of this space, but you want to just start weaving through every other punch out. And that's one of my favorite things to do with this zigzag border punch. And for this one, I do want to use the orange side up for my design because we're going to put it up against this other piece and it goes in the other direction. So just weave that through. It's not hard. Your paper should be nice and floppy. It's a little tedious, but you can see I'm not gonna trim this out so you can see how long it takes to weave this all the way through. And remember, you don't have to go all the way because this is more like a 9-inch piece, or it's a 10-inch piece, right? And then this is a 12-inch border. So we're gonna have a couple extra inches at the top, and we're only gonna use about 9 and a hair of it. So get to right about there. And what I want is this to start with this piece right here. So I'm going to turn it over and we're going to scoot the that piece that we cut all the way toward the point side. All right. Come on, be straight. All right. And then, oh, it's hard for you to see. I'm so sorry. What I want is for this piece, I want this edge to kind of go down to the bottom. Let me zoom down. All right, I want there to be a full piece right here. I don't want it to come halfway in between. So I'm actually going to take my repo tape and just stick this guy down so he doesn't move. Actually, I probably should have stuck it underneath, but I want on the outside, sorry. All right, so we're going to stick it to the outside, to the point edge, all the way up here. Point, 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 point. For some reason, I don't see, I think I was off a little bit with my punching right here. You can see there's kind of a little divot right there. So it's left a gap, but that's okay. And I'll do one up here too. All right, so we're going out to this edge as best we can. It won't matter if a little bit shows through. All right, there we go. So now we've got it kind of all the way out to the edge, except for right here where I messed up a little bit. And so I'm going to put my start again where there's a whole piece right here, just within where the weaving is. I'm going to put just a little bit of repositionable, kind of going up here. That all the way over, and then I want to put this lined up with that wide piece at the bottom, and then it should end up halfway. I guess I'm down too much, but it should end up halfway in the middle of another wide piece there at the top. Okay, and then we'll just take our scissors, and you could do this with your trimmer, but I found that it was just as easy to do it with my scissors. I'm just going to cut right along that line. All right, so there's my first piece. And then I'm going to make sure that when I do the other piece, my paper is, it looks like it's pretty much the same either way. That's handy. Okay, so then we're going to do the same thing with the other side. And this one, thankfully, doesn't have a little divot in it. So I should get a better look at my, when my paper gets pulled up to the edge. I mean, it's a little tedious. You don't have to weave through here. One of the other things I really like to do with this border maker cartridge sometimes is just to use it underneath my paper, just as kind of a zigzag edge like that. I think that gives a really cool effect. So if you don't want to do this weaving, you could just have just a little pointy edge like that. But I like the weaving, and we have the extra paper anyway, so just weave it through. Hopefully it's not too boring to watch. So I'm actually really excited this week. We have the Poolside Paradise collection that came out. So we had a new beach and a new pool, and we already had a summer collection, and lots of pictures of those kind of things from my childhood. So I'm going to go ahead and take a piece of, or just take a little bit of the repo and stick this down. I'm going to scoot all the way to the edge, stick that down so that it doesn't slide. Oops, off. Sorry, I zoom in so that you guys can see me, and then I forget that that's what I've done. All right. So I'll zoom back out, because apparently I cannot be trusted to stay zoomed. Okay, and this, like I said, it works either way. That's so handy. I think that's the way it works best. So I want this to come this way. And again, I want the wider section at the bottom. Where I have that whole full wide piece. And then I butt it up against the edge of the little paper ribbon that I cut. And then I'll just trim this. And that way it will look, you know, the lines will line up on both sides. I usually like to cut from the back, but for this one, I think it's easier to just cut from the front. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and put these together. All right, we're gonna take this one, and we want this to be about 1/2 inch from the bottom. And I like to use my ruler. I like to use my mat just because it holds everything in place. But I love the ruler because it's got this thick edge, and so stuff doesn't, I can butt things up against it. And it's got the grid marks. So I love the grid marks because I can see right here in the middle, the 0, that's the 1/2 inch line. So if I just put that, I don't even have to be on my mat correctly, but if I put that 1/2 inch line and position it up against the bottom of my paper, I want this piece to overlap that piece by about 1/4 inch. I'm going to make sure that my adhesive goes over where the weaves were, as well as on the main piece. So there's my, I'll put it straight on the mat because that is a little bit annoying. All right, so then I'm at 1/2 inch. That is a little easier because I can just line it up with these. And this comes out to 5, and so I'm going to put this 1/2 inch in, put this up against the bottom, and stick that down. And then we'll do the exact same thing on the opposite side. Oh, that's scooted too far off where I messed it up. I don't know how to fix that. It's showing a lot. This is the piece that was messed up. I wonder if I could take this piece. I bet I could. Okay, pretend that this didn't happen, but I'm gonna cut this piece off where I messed it up. And we're going to weave through here. Ha. Okay. Now, let's see. Yeah, Donna and Debbie, they wouldn't have this issue. They would just be smoothly going along, but this is reality here, friends. And I love that there is an extra piece that I can paste it in. It would have been easier if I would have done it before I stuck it onto the paper. But by overlapping this, then I can scoot that all the way out. Okay, all the way out. Tuck that under. Put a little piece of repo on here, and I'm going to just stick this down use this as like regular old Scotch tape. All right, and now I don't have that little gap, which I told you it would be okay, but it truly would have bothered me. So I would have had to cover it with an embellishment or something like that. Okay, so now that's all fixed and I can be happy. You'd think after using the Border Maker system for probably 20 years, I can't remember exactly when it came out, I would remember to always make sure I pushed my cartridge in all the way, but apparently sometimes I get lazy. All right, so again, 1.5 inches from the bottom. And then I want this to be a 1/2 inch in, overlapping this paper. Okay, now we're gonna put our stripes across. And these are gonna go across at 2 inches from the bottom. So I know that there are people that do not like the look of having the 2 different colors of background paper. And sometimes we have tried to, we choose the same background papers. You can always use 2 pieces of cardstock for your base if you prefer. And you could even use, like, cut this strip from a different paper. Our goal with our Savvy Scrapbookers series, though, is to give you 3 layouts so that you can finish, do 6 pages with 1 pack of paper. And very little else. I mean, sometimes we do add the cardstock because sometimes you really need it. And this is pretty busy paper. So because I have a stripe, I have to decide, do I want it to be mirrored so that it's like orange, green, double orange, or do I want it to be continual? Or is it exactly the same in both directions? It's exactly the same in both directions, so I don't have to worry about that. I generally prefer it to be continual instead of mirrored. I don't know, sometimes stuff is too symmetrical for me, but in this one, I guess I don't get to choose. Oh, 2 inches from the bottom. All right, so what we're gonna do as far as pictures, or what I would like to do as far as pictures, would be to have kind of a 4x6 or 4x4 down here and a 4x4 up here, and then some 5 by 3.5 inch photos. I think really are gonna fit in this 6-inch piece really nicely. And this is really busy paper, and by doing it this way, we've covered up a lot of that busyness. However, the pictures that I have are pictures from my childhood. I grew up in Hawaii, and I have these 4 pictures of us at the beach, and they are 4x6. This one was cropped oddly, and I thought I could trim it down to 4x4, but I couldn't. So I think I'm gonna use that one right there. I love this one of us, but it's a full 4x6, and I don't really want to crop too much else off of it. This one I think I could cut down a little bit into a 4x4 and put this one over here. So mine's going to go off the edge, but ideally I would have liked to do the 5.5 by 3.5 photos. And I'm just going to do some journaling boxes, I think, on here, but I would rather have done it the other way. So this is the part where you get to have a little bit more flexibility with how you decorate your layout, how you arrange your photos. I am going to take this wave. I don't actually know how this is going to look. I haven't done a practice sample, but there we go. I'm going to take this wave border. I'm going to put it right along the edge of this sticker here. Kind of gets lost in there, but you see it on the yellow. But because I have fewer pictures, I feel like I can get away with it. I'm trying to line up the line between the sand and the water, like with the top of that border. So I think you still see the waves, even if it gets lost right there. And I think I'm going to go ahead and trim this guy off, just to cut that little black edge. So my dad is 89, And he and I have been doing a project together, which I am loving, in that he, every Monday we meet. Actually, I think I could cut that out. I cut that side too. Every Monday we meet on Zoom, and he has been busily scanning in old family photos, and then he uploads them to a Google Drive, and we meet on Zoom and we talk about them, and he tells me like the stories. Now, some of these are, photos from my childhood, but some of them are photos from his childhood or even his ancestors. We've got a couple that are from the clear back in the 1800s, and it's been so wonderful to hear him tell me about the stories of his family. Okay, so there, I'm going to put this one. I think I'll put this one down here, and that one up there, and this one I am gonna crop it. I can crop a little bit off the top. I wish that I had more pictures of this, and we may find them. He's going through all sorts of old boxes of photos. But what I am going to do is I'm going to do a journal box kind of right here and talk about this beach that was like a block from our house growing up. And then I'm going to use some stickers. I have this one that says Waves of Memories, which I really loved. So I think I'm going to put that right there. And then I've got these little surfboards. One of them says Ride the Waves. We did not actually do much surfing, our little Howley girls. Howley is the Hawaiian word for a newcomer. I think I'm gonna put the little flower hibiscus down there. And I like the little Beach Bliss, Toes in the Sand, maybe. I haven't decided. And I have another flower. And I was gonna do my journaling on this space, but I think I'm gonna do it right here. So I need like a 4. I'm gonna measure what the width of this guy is. So 3 and 7/8, I guess. So let me do a little journaling right here, and then I'll come back and I will put the whole layout together with the embellishments. I ended up needing 2 journal boxes. I did this one first. It talked about our house. I did cover up my street name because, sometimes that's a security question and the internet's forever. But our house was probably less than a quarter mile from the ocean. We'd walk up the street, cut through the church parking lot, cross over Kamehameha Highway, and use the public right-of-way to Clissold's Beach. But then I felt like I needed something more to tell the story, and so I added this one over here that says, one of the best things about growing up in Laie was how close we were to the ocean. It's possible to live in Hawaii and still have to drive an hour to get to the beach, but for us it was so close it was easy to just go over for an hour or 2 after school. If you've ever been to Hawaii and you go to the Polynesian Cultural Center, I grew up like a block from there. I mean, we could hear the drums of the afternoon canoe pageant every day. We could almost set our watches by when we started hearing the drums from the canoe pageant. It was a great, great place to grow up. I'm so very fortunate to have done that. I think maybe the Beach Bliss, the Toes in the Sand were a little redundant. I don't know that I needed those, but I had them. I do love Waves of Memories just because this was, this was my childhood, and this is what we did. We would, before we did homework or on a hot day or something, well, my mom would be at home getting ready to fix dinner. She'd be like, you know what, let's go to the beach first. And it was fantastic way to grow up. This is me right here, by the way. I was the oldest. So, we ended up being 8 kids, but my youngest sister wasn't born until after I left home. So here you go. This is with the Beach Scenes collection. This is our Savvy Scrapbookers. And of course I did it for you with another collection because I love to show these layouts with a different collection, because you get such a different look if you just change out the papers. And so this is with the Noteworthy Days, and this is a much more kind of masculine, simple layout. I still use 2 different background papers, but this is the same, fronts and backs of the papers. And I did add, both of those pictures in a little journal box down here. So Noteworthy Days is your variation if you want something you don't maybe need something that's beachy. But I really like how the beachy one turned out. And I love that these colors, these pictures are probably from about 1978. And I think that they work perfectly with these fun beach pictures from my childhood. So thanks so much for watching. Be sure to hop over and watch Donna's and Debbie's to get more ideas using the Beach Scenes paper pack. We'll be back again on the second Wednesday of August with another edition of the Savvy Scrapbookers. Thanks so much and happy scrapbooking.